Listen, you hear that? It's the busy buzzing of insects in the chaparral. Some are flies, some are honeybees, and some are native bees. You've never heard of native bees? Honeybees are European imports brought to North America by the Pilgrims. Native bees have been here for, well, just about forever. And there are lots of different kinds of native bees, 4,000 species in North America alone. That makes more kinds of native bees than native birds or native butterflies. Yet we've known so little about them, at least until now. Scientists, farmers, ranchers, even home gardeners are paying attention to how native bees pollinate native plants, agricultural crops, and homegrown fruits and vegetables. What native bees look like, how many kinds there are, and their roles in their habitat are all relatively new areas of study. So we're searching out flowers in search of native bees today on A Growing Passion. Bees descended from wasps. But while most wasps are carnivores, bees are vegetarians. They get protein from pollen and carbohydrates from nectar. As bees flit from flower to flower, pollen collects on their legs and their abdomens. Some of it falls off too. That's how pollen grains move from one flower to another. It's the process of pollination. Bees are amazingly diverse. Each is evolved to fill a particular niche, to pollinate a certain shape of flower and build a particular kind of nest. Since native bees rarely sting and they don't make harvestable honey, they don't get a lot of attention. That doesn't mean they don't have value, though. European honeybees have had the spotlight, but with colony collapse and other problems plaguing honeybees, we're focusing more and more on native bees. That's a good thing, since expanding development and agriculture destroy native bee habitats and threaten their long-term survival. It's important to document native bee diversity along with the role of native bees as pollinators. And that work needs to be done now, before it's too late.
More bees. How many bees do you think you've collected?
James Hung is a newly minted PhD from the University of California, San Diego. For years, James collected and identified more than 17,000 of the region's native bees, from the coast to the desert.
This is really impressive. You work on bees. Why bees?
Yeah, so I've always been into insects, but when I was a college student, I was introduced to bees and learned that they're very important ecologically, even among insects, which are ecologically a very important group. So bees are responsible for pollinating a large portion of land plants, especially in temperate areas, which includes the United States, and they're also just absolutely gorgeous.
These bees have diverse lifestyles. They live in different habitats and they build different kinds of nests. They visit different flowers in different seasons. Their range of shapes, sizes, and colors is staggering, as is the scale of James' collection.
When I look at this, we've got these huge bees, and then we have little tiny bees. Why is there such a diversity of size?
So the diversity of size largely has to do with different plants they feed on. So large bees are adapted to foraging on large, heavy flowers, and small bees are oftentimes adapted to much smaller flowers.
So it's a real function and form.
It really is a function and form thing. And that's probably one of the reasons bees are so diverse, because something like 85% of the plant species on Earth require pollination by animals. Now, some of them are pollinated by birds or by bats or by moths, but a large portion of them can be and are pollinated by bees.
Bees pollinate the vast majority of the world's 300,000 flowering plants. No wonder we talk about being busy as a bee.
All of the bees in this lab are collected in San Diego County, from the coastal dunes all the way up into the deserts, and from sea level all the way up to some of the highest peaks in the county. The kinds of bees you find in a locality is oftentimes largely dependent on the kinds of plants you have in a community. And if you talk to botanists, they'll tell you also that San Diego is a really diverse spot for flowering plants. Even just in the coastal sage grouse that we have around campus, if you go to a nice unfragmented site, so nice preserved, intact natural reserve, you'll find something like 150 different species throughout the year.
What are the ones that really stand out to you?
Yeah, so some of my favorite ones are these large carpenter bees. They're This genus, Xylocopa, the large carpenter bee, includes some of the largest species of bees in the world. And indeed, in North America, the largest bee species is right here.
I've seen these green ones before. I didn't realize those were bees.
Yeah, so the green ones, these ones here are social sweat bees, and they're generalists that will go to many different kinds of flowers. So when I show people my bees, oftentimes the green ones are the first ones their attention is drawn to, and they're like, wow, these exotic bees, where did you get them? They're actually some of the most common bees in San Diego, and if you go out right around this time of the year and look at some native plants, you'll probably see one because they're generalists that are able to survive in many different kinds of environments and are quite tolerant to habitats being shrunken by urbanization.
James works on the impact of development and habitat fragmentation on San Diego's native bee populations. Some perdita bees, which are called small mining bees, live in the coastal sage scrub.
We have ones here in our collection that are specialized on deerweed, on chemise, on buckwheat, on sage,
All the plants
California
from our
lilies.
sage scrub.
Yeah. So most different species of plants in our ecosystem will have some sort of perdita, small mining bees.
So the plants you just mentioned, they're all from the native sage scrub here, but that gets eliminated, right? I mean, that's when you have development, that's all scraped away.
That's right, yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, so it really is unfortunate that the sage scrub we have here is not so charismatic like, giant redwood forest. Less than 15% of the coastal sage scrub now still remains, and much of it exists in these little fragments that are surrounded by urbanization. So our research has found that in these fragments, you actually still get some species of bees, but they're less diverse in terms of how many species there are. They're less diverse functionally, so they do fewer things, and they are also less representative of the unique fauna that's endemic to this corner of Southern California. I'm trying to find a specimen to pull out. That'll be nice to look at under the scope.
James' enormous specimen collection includes nearly all the region's native bees. He's collaborating with the San Diego Natural History Museum, who's doing a project that documents changes to San Diego's ecosystems as a result of development and climate change. James, of course, focuses on the effects on bees.
Anywhere you go in San Diego County, almost, except for the very high mountains and the very harsh deserts, the main thing you will see flying around will be honeybees. Or protovarieties. One of those two.
Get it?
I think so. We have here a male Hesperapis fuchsi.
And how do you know it's male?
The males have longer antennae and the legs are not hairy because the males don't need to collect pollen.
Is this bee specifically to the coast?
No, this bee can be found from the coast all the way out into Enza Borrego Desert. In the genus Hesperapis, this is one of the more widespread members.
And what is he looking for here?
This bee is a generalist, so it can forage from a wide diversity of different plant species.
So anything that's blooming now, basically.
Pretty much, but I suspect that in this particular area, it's probably visiting the sun cups and the cryptantha.
Today's expedition is catch and release. We hold on to a bee only long enough to identify it, and then we let it go.
Bye-bye, Hesperapis.
Oh, adios. Where did he go?
Yeah.
Wonder what we're going to find next.
Yeah, let's take a look at the deerweed. There's probably some good stuff on it.
The spring bloom is fertile ground for our bee hunt.
Okay, I'm gonna swing, okay? On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh man, he's big.
Yeah, this is a Bombus vosnesensky, the yellow-faced or vosnesensky bumblebee.
Ooh, I hear him.
Okay, so there she is.
Ooh, she's beautiful.
She's pretty young. As you can see, all her fur is intact. It's like the entire bee is very velvety. So as these workers age, they'll get more and more bald and shiny. But this one, she's in mint condition. This is one of the most widespread of the western bumblebee species. Okay, we should let her go soonish because larger bees will tend to stress out and overheat more easily. Yeah.
While honeybees are social and live in large hives, native bees are typically solitary. They spend most of their lives in search of nectar and pollen. They nest and they lay their eggs in holes in the ground or in cavities in wood or in hollow plant stems. The bees' life cycles are synchronized with the kinds of flowers they visit. The plants are adapted to their bee pollinators as well.
This bright metallic green bee is Agapostemon texanus.
Oh my gosh. You know, this reminds me of that character, the green hornet, except she's not a hornet.
That's right, yeah.
But she's that green.
She is, yeah. A lot of people overlook these guys when they forage because they're so green, they just blend into the background.
Yeah, they're the color of the leaves, but look at her, she's amazing.
She is. So this is actually one of the most common bee species in San Diego. You can find them in large numbers. Most different kinds of habitats from the coast all the way out to the desert.
You know, I've lived here so long, I've never seen this before.
Yeah, so now you know to keep your eyes open.
Watch out for the cacti. I know that if those get on you, you're not going to be happy.
Oh, yeah.
After we searched for bees in the coastal sage scrub, we decided to see how desert bees compare. It's spring bloom in Anza Borrego, where the air is buzzing softly with the sound of busy bees.
James, you know, I think of the desert, most people I think of the desert as being a hot, desolate place without much life. And yet, there's tons of bees.
That's right, yeah. So when it rains, the desert gets all sorts of different plant species, and all throughout the world, you often find that it's in these arid areas that get sufficient rainfall that you see the most different kinds of bee species.
So this is where there's the greatest bee diversity. More here than at the coast?
I would say so. More in the desert than in the coast.
That's a real surprise.
There's an Anthophora here. I'm trying to wait for her to get to a better position before I strike.
Whew, you really got me there that time.
Sorry, but I got her. My policy is always swing first, ask questions later.
James, you are so elegant when you go to, catch a bee. Show me what you're doing.
Yeah, so the accepted method, which is pretty much the one I use, is you want to get as close to the insect as possible without scaring it away. And then you want to swing quickly and follow through. Swing your net a few times so it ends up at the bottom of the net bag. And then you cinch the bag and isolate them sort of in this area so you can move a vial or whatever you need to in to capture the insect.
But you're very gentle. I mean, I can see the goal is not to hurt it, just to capture it, look at it, and release it.
Bye-bye.
There's a lot of plants to see and a lot of color. James, we have this beautiful opuntia with the pink flower. I know this attracts a lot of bees. Oh, there's one right there.
Yeah.
Talk to me about color.
Color is one of the primary ways bee-pollinated flowers used to attract their pollinators. So bees are very visual creatures and they can see into the ultraviolet spectrum. So oftentimes to us, a flower that's one color or just one pattern might actually look pretty different from bees because they can see the different patterns that are formed by ultraviolet pigments in the flowers. So different color flowers tend to attract different kinds of bees.
I was just going to ask you that. So what would this one attract? That's a big bee.
Yeah, this one is attracting currently cactus bees in the genus Diadasia. That bee in particular will go to pretty much any cactus, but whatever dominant cactus is blooming in the environment at the time, they'll cue into that color and go for the flowers.
That's really pretty.
Yeah.
The desert's coarse soils reveal a rare treat. There's a bee building a ground nest.
Do you see? It's coming out. The bee is coming out. The bee is backing right now. Do you see it? She's still actively excavating. This is rare. I have not seen this in real life, and she's currently actively excavating her nest. This is a really rare opportunity. There are only a handful of people in the world who are specialized at finding bee nests, and I'm not one of them. So this is a very rare opportunity for me to see a bee actively working on her nest. We need different bee species that are physically and behaviorally and chemically adapted to these different kinds of plants and these different kinds of conditions in order for all the plant species out there to be pollinated adequately. This is a small digger bee in the genus Anthophora. It's a male who was patrolling for females, and I snatched him out of the air.
How did you know he was patrolling for females?
Oh, when they patrol for females, they have this very characteristic flight pattern where they're just oftentimes flying in a straight line or zigzags, and they go back and forth over the same area. And oftentimes you can't really wait for them to land because they'll just do that for a long time, so you just have to figure out their flight pattern and then intercept them as they fly. Can you see his blue eyes?
Oh, yeah.
He's a blue-eyed blonde.
So am I.
Native bees, both here in the desert and along the coast, sip nectar and collect pollen. In the process, they pollinate the flowers. The flowers then make seeds for their future generations. That's nature at its finest. With so much native habitat already lost to development, how can we protect habitat for native pollinators? Los Jilgueros Preserve covers 46 acres in the center of Fallbrook, California, a rural town whose primary business is agriculture. Years ago, the Fallbrook Land Conservancy purchased this property to set aside as open space. Restoring and conserving habitats near croplands gives native bees a fighting chance and yields some surprising benefits to farmers and ranchers.
Our native bees actually provide pollination support for our crops in the area. For native pollinators, they don't need the contiguous landscape like a mammal would, but they need something more like an island of pollinator habitat of native plants that allow that pollinator or that bee to move through the landscape by skipping along through islands of native vegetation.
Shay O'Keefe works for the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service. They are charged with conserving and restoring native habitat for native pollinators that pollinate agricultural crops.
There's so many different habitats here, it's kind of surprising.
It is, and it's a little gem in the middle of Fallbrook, which definitely warrants all the efforts for restoration and conservation here.
Farms surround this community, and Los Jilgueros was once orchard and farmland. Eventually, it was overrun with invasive exotic grasses. With help from NRCS, the habitats at Los Jilgueros have been restored. Each is home to native bees and to other native pollinators that service the nearby crops.
See why this is good pollinator habitat. Look at everything in bloom.
Definitely. We've got a lot. This is a good time of year for that.
Yep, elderberry, the oaks, the California sunflowers, all the Matilaha poppies,
Yeah.
and all the sages.
Definitely. And some good bunch grasses, and the oaks are great wildlife habitat as well.
As the different habitats came back to life, so did the wildlife, including honeybees and native bees. They pollinate avocado and citrus and vegetables that grow on nearby farms.
Fallbrook has a lot of avocados and a lot of citrus, as well as a lot of nurseries
And the avocado trees are right across the street.
right across the street.
So those pollinators, native pollinators, the bees and everything that are here, they just have to fly over there.
They do. Hopscotch right over the road.
European honeybees are still the most important agricultural pollinators in the U.S., but experts see native pollinators becoming more and more valuable to agriculture.
I see lots of honeybees.
Yep.
What would we normally see? What would you expect to see?
Well, it could be a different time of day. You might get your native bees out here, but you might see your metallic bees, like your sweat bees, maybe some of the hairy-legged bees that very closely resemble a honeybee.
Do you worry when you see so many honeybees but not native bees that there's going to be an issue with pollination either here or in farms?
Not necessarily, and that was a concern when we started working on native habitat for pollinators several years ago, but the recent research has shown that if there's enough forage material, then the two will actually work together and increase production in agriculture.
Native plants provide native pollinators with food and with places to nest. When invasive species encroach on native habitats, they displace those critical native plants. The plants and their pollinators simply disappear.
All these yellow flowers are so beautiful, but this is not a good plant to have here, is it?
No, it is a non-native invasive
Yeah, this
mustard.
is that mustard.
Mhm.
Yeah, is this a problem?
It is a problem, yes. Something that we try and eradicate, control, so that we can get the natives back into play.
Yeah, too bad. And all this dead wood, the snag, is that important to have here too?
It is, yes. Even though it is dead, it does provide this structure here for protection for things like ground nesting birds, so that then when they go to nest on the ground, they have protection from things like predators.
So it's a whole habitat. It's not just about the pollinators.
That's correct, yep. It's all connected.
As we protect, enhance, and restore habitats, The native flowers produce pollen and nectar that supports native bees and European honeybees. Los Jilgueros Preserve is a great example of how restoring habitat supports native bees, helps farmers, and creates spaces for people to enjoy right in the heart of town. Some of the best places for native bee habitats are in our own backyards.
Charlie, welcome to my garden.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's absolutely stunning. This is a great environment for native bees and pollinators and beneficial insects. This is amazing.
Well, what do you see that makes it a good bee habitat?
The biodiversity you have here. You have so many native plants that are growing that you're providing all the necessities of life that the insects really need.
Charlie Moore of Crown Bees partners with researchers and citizen scientists across the country. One of their goals is to gather information about the habits of native bees, like their ranges and their favorite food sources, and use that information to increase food production worldwide.
Native bees, they're the super pollinators. So every single flower that they land on, they pollinate. The pollen falls off, and then they pick up more pollen, and then they keep going. And they bounce around to every different type of flower. They're not just going to one tree and stripping the tree of that pollen. They're going to go to that tree, to that little dandelion, back to another tree, and then maybe even back to the original tree before they even come back to their nesting hole. Honeybees, they stack the pollen on their pollen packs on their legs, so they need to be focused on the hive benefit. They need to bring back as much food as possible, so they're beelining to that one tree, taking as much pollen and nectar away from that one area, so sometimes that bee never even flies to another tree to pollinate. Let's try to figure out a viable solution to build a coexistence, to protect our environment, to protect our native pollinators, but also still be able to grow honey.
Crown Bees sells native bees and bee houses primarily to home gardeners. Charlie brought me one, along with a container filled with native mason bee cocoons, so we can establish a population in my garden.
You know, I can feel the pulsating from the bees. I guess these are the cocoons, right?
Yeah, so what's happening right now is that they're warming up inside of the cocoons. We have some that are already emerged, and they're just hanging out right now and warming up and getting their wings warmed up. She's been in that cocoon all winter, so she's stretching out.
Oh, now she's starting to rub her head. Oh, now the legs.
See, the wings are starting to spread now,
Ooh.
and there she goes.
Hi.
They're not aggressive by any means, so you could go right up to where they're nesting in their house.
Yeah.
They're not going to sting you. You could be literally a few inches away just observing them, and they just want to fly right around you.
Native bees are not aggressive, and they don't sting unless really provoked. That makes people feel much more comfortable about inviting them into the garden.
James, I'm so excited about this kit, but I don't know what to do with it. What am I supposed to do?
James McDonald is my friend and my favorite beekeeper. He showed me how to assemble Crown Bees' mason bee house. This cedar box is filled with tubes of varying sizes. Some are wood, some are cardboard, and we could also use dried and cut up horsetail reeds. They're all just the right size and dimension for mason bees to lay their eggs. This might look like a bee apartment house to you, but it won't to a mason bee. They're solitary bees, so they work alone. Each bee collects its own nectar and pollen, colonizes its own tube, and lays its eggs inside.
Ready for bees?
We're ready for bees.
There, the developing bees overwinter until spring, when flowers are blooming and conditions are just right for them to emerge from their cocoons. We put the cocoons into the bee house, so the house imprints on the bees as they emerge and fly away. That way, they'll know to return here when they're ready to lay eggs.
Now, why did you pick this spot?
Well, for multiple reasons. The two most important one is morning sun and afternoon shade.
Uh-huh.
They need the heat to warm up in the morning after a cold night, but then later on in the day, it gets too hot. So they have the shade to keep them cool in the afternoon.
And there was a reason you picked the post?
Yes, because it's in a natural tree, there's hundreds of little holes, nooks and crannies. And so that isn't perforated with all kinds of nooks and crannies and holes. So ideally, the bees will come right back to here.
Good. I'm glad we could have just the perfect spot.
You have the perfect spot.
It's about time we welcomed native bees. They're elegant, they're beautiful, and we are among the fortunate beneficiaries of all their hard work. Native bees are seldom seen treasures.
The more we understand about their life cycle and their habits, the better job we can do to ensure their survival. I'm Nan Sterman. See you next time on A Growing Passion.